Alright people, we are back for our third Abomination match. So this is actually going to be a new Abomination deck that I just recently threw together. So probably have some new cards, some new interesting things going on. Also, I kind of realized when I was updating my rules, I had slightly overcomplicated a aspect of my game that was just making it a little bit more difficult than it needed to be. So I'm gonna roll back this rule and fix it so it should be a lot more understandable. Once again, you and your opponent both start with 100 life. The goal is to take your opponent down to 0. On each of your turns, you have 4 action points, and you can use these to play actions if it's your turn, or reactions if it's not your turn, onto the battlefield. So if I was going first, for example, I might play an action sidekick, and this would spend 1 action point, so I'm going down to 3. And then my opponent might spend 4 for I got style, which is a counter reaction, so I might spend all 4. And then after my opponent plays a reaction, I have an opportunity to play a modify. So I might modify this with a repeated body shot. Now this modify doesn't affect this particular action phase, but it will go onto the field and it has an effect while it's on the field. My opponent won't play a modify, and then we would close out this action phase. So at the end of the action phase, instead of sending your cards to the discard pile, you send them to the combo zone or the skill zone. So I would probably send the sidekick over to my combo zone, and I would send this repeated body shot to my skill zone. I didn't do any damage because my opponent countered it. They would send this to their, let's say, their combo zone. And then this counter allows them to play a tier 2 or lower Muay Thai action from the deck. So they might come through and play this roundhouse kick. It's played for free because it's a counter. And then I won't have a reaction to their action. And then even though they've gone over their action points, you're always allowed to modify an action or reaction that's being played. So they're going to modify their action. But now, since they had spent 4, and now that they went over the 4, because they would spend 2 for this action point, so effectively spending 6 their turn, you're allowed to go over the amount of action points that you can spend on your turn. But when you do, your opponent can draw a card. And we have our react pile, which would be over here, and our main deck, which would be over here. And whenever you can draw a card, you can draw from either your main deck or your react pile. So in response to them going over, I might draw a card from my main deck. They would come through and do 2, and then this card has committed. This is roundhouse kick, and it says that if a reaction had an effect on it, it would go to the discard pile instead of a zone. But if a reaction did not have an effect on it, then it does 4 more damage. So this is going to do 2 damage plus the extra 4 for 6. And then you always add your combo count to the damage that's being done. So they have 1 combo count at this point in time. So it's going to be coming through for 7 damage to me. And we each have 100 life. So I would take 7 damage, going down to 93. And then for every 5 damage that you deal to somebody, they have to send a card from their combo zone to the discard pile. And if they don't have any cards in their combo zone, then they have to send from their skill zone to the discard pile. So they did 7 damage to me, which is 1 increment of 5. So I would send my sidekick from my combo zone to my discard pile. And then we would end the action phase, and they could send these to their combo or skill zone. So they would most likely send this to their combo zone and send this to their skill zone, and it's still my turn because that was the action played off a counter reaction. So then I might come through and go over my 3 action points left, spending 4 for the sidekick, cross punch, hook. When I go over my 4 action points, my opponent would have the opportunity to draw a card from either their react pile or their main deck. And then my opponent has the opportunity to react, but they have spent all their action points, so they probably don't have any way to react. And then I have the opportunity to modify. I will modify this, doing a brawler's adrenaline, which gives me a skill zone ability. When it's in the skill zone, you can use 3 Muay Thai skill to gain 2 action points and draw 2 cards, and send this card from the skill zone to discard pile to activate the usability. So with sidekick that I played earlier, it had a setup ability that sets up the next Muay Thai action I play this turn to make it undodgeable. And then this attack that I just played now, sidekick, cross punch, hook, had a follow-up ability where if it follows up a Muay Thai foot action, which is this is the Muay Thai foot action, then it becomes unblockable. So this sidekick, cross punch, hook was actually undodgeable and unblockable. So I don't have any combo count at this time, so I would just do 8 damage to my opponent, bringing them down to that 92. And it would be 1 increment of 5, so then they would send 1 card from their combo zone to their discard pile. And then we close out the action phase. Now I'd send this action to my combo zone, and I'd send this modify to my skill zone, and then my turn would be over because I spent all my action points, and it would be my opponent's turn. So that was just a quick rundown of kind of how to play and how each turn goes. So we're gonna do now a match against the Abomination so you can kind of see a whole match play out. Alright, so some quick rules for the Abomination match. Here's our life totals. 100 and 100. You don't really need dice to keep track of your action points. 4 action points is pretty low. Normally you can do that real quick in your head, but we're going to use these for visual representation. The Abomination has an action deck and a reaction deck. So on their turn, they will pull cards on the top of their action deck until they have spent all 4 or over all 4. And then on my turn, they will flip over a card from their reaction deck in response to any actions play against them until they have spent their 4 or over their 4, or until I've finished my turn. And if the Abomination is to draw a card, for example, because I exerted myself and went over 4 action points, when the Abomination draws, you just send the top card of either the action or reaction pile, your choice, to their combo zone. And the Abomination only has combo count on their cards. They do not have skill zone, so all cards go to the combo zone. And whenever you deal damage to the Abomination, you get to choose which cards are sent from their combo zone to their discard pile. Okay, that should be enough for the Abomination rules. So at the beginning of your turn, you draw 4 cards. 4 from the main deck, 3 from the react pile. Each turn you can draw 1 card. And you can pass your turn and play nothing to draw another card. So in the Abomination matches, the Abomination always goes first. So we will flip over. Abomination is coming at me with a tier 5, your body is pinned. It's a follow-up action. It did not play an action before this action this turn, so it won't be able to follow up. And it's coming at me for 15 damage. I'm just going to take the 15 damage as I don't really have anything I need to defend. Send that over there. And so the Abomination went over, therefore, and so I get to draw a card in response. I would get to draw a card in response and then decide if I wanted to react. Alright, so then I drew for my turn. And we are going to, I'm going to do need to work on 4. Come at them with a tier 3, 4 damage. Okay, so then they would flip a reaction. I spent 3, 1, they spent 5, so they would go over. I would get to draw a card in response, so I will draw a card from my react pile. And then this has Beast Deflect, and so Deflect does is you and your opponent both reveal the top card of your library, and whoever reveals the card with the highest tier wins the deflect. So the Abomination got a 4 and I got a 1, so they will deflect my action, negating it. And then this says Beast Deflect, so if the card that was revealed was a beast card, which it is, then it goes to a zone instead of returning to the top of the deck. And then we end out the action phase, so I'm going to send this to my skill zone, they'll send this to the combo zone. This has an ability that if it's in my skill zone, my counters deal 2 more damage. And then I'm going to come through with the roundhouse kick, so I'm going to go over, so we're just going to send one from the top to theirs, because they get to draw a card. They do not have any other action points, and then I'm going to modify this with the dedicated training, and then we'll go to damage. This is coming at my opponent for 6, so they will go down to 94, and then I can send 1 card from my opponent's combo zone to the discard pile. So I will send this one, and then we're in the action phase, and I'll send this to my combo zone. I will send this to my skill zone. This has a memory skill ability, where if my memory skill is 5 or higher, then once a turn when I play a card from my deck due to a card's ability, I can play a card that's 1 tier higher. And right now, currently, my memory skill count is 3. Alright, that will be the end of my turn, so I will end. The Abomination will attack me. Covering opponent, exhaust 1. So target opponent must send 1 card of their choice from a zone to the discard pile when that is played. So I will send this from my zone to the discard pile. I will respond with I've been working on this. This reacts to a tier 2 or lower physical action. This is a tier 2 physical action. It will prevent the damage from the action. At the end of the action phase, I can freely play a tier 1 or lower morte action from the deck. So then we'll end out this action phase. This will go to the combo zone. I will send this to my skill zone, and then I will play a tier 1 or lower morte action from my deck. So I'll play a sidekick. This is an action played as a result of a counter reaction, so it gets plus 2 damage. Now that I've been working on this is in my skill zone, my memory skill count is at 5. So in the future, any cards that I play from the deck, like the sidekick, I'll be able to play a card that's 1 tier higher. So I'm counting my opponent for 3 damage. They had spent 2 on their original action. So now in response, they'll flip this. So they spent 2 more. It's a block 7. I'm only coming for 3, so I'll block it. And then if they take no damage from my opponent's action this action phase, then I have to send 1 card from a zone to the discard pile. So I will send that I've been working on this to the discard pile. That will shut off this skill. And then we'll end out the action phase, and I'll send this to my combo zone. My opponent will send that to their combo zone. Now, that was my opponent's turn because they attacked me and then I countered. So we will end their turn, and it'll go to my turn. I will draw 1 card. Okay, I think I will come through with a cross punch sidekick. Tier 3. They will flip their reaction. This is a retaliate. So taking damage this action phase will not cause them to lose any cards from their zones. And then at the end of the action phase, they get to play the top card of their deck. This is a retaliate ability. It's a type of counter. So I will come through for 8 damage, which they will take. Then we will send our cards from our zones. So I will send this to my combo zone. They will send this to their combo zone. And then they get to retaliate with the top card of their action pile. So now they are attacking me. I have 1 action point left. They went over when that card came out, so I got to draw a card. They have 10 combo and 3 damage, so they're coming at me for 13. Okay, so I will take the 13 damage, going down to 72, and I will lose my 2 combo. Then this will go into their combo zone. And then I'm gonna come through with a roundhouse kick. So I went over. They can send 1 card to their combo zone. I will modify this action, and then I will do 6 damage to my opponent because they did not have any reaction. Going down to 80. It did 1 increment of 5 damage, so I'll send 1 card from their combo zone to the discard pile. And then these will go to my zone, so I'll send this to my combo zone, and I'll send this to my skill zone. Right now, my skill is at 4 memory and at 4 Muay Thai. And if I get 6 Muay Thai, I can play actions from my deck for retaliate ability. Okay, that will be the end of my turn. So then it will be the Abomination's turn. They will come at me with a unpredictable hop. This sets up a beast action. So the next beast action they play this turn will cost 1 less action point. And this is coming at me for, it's a tier 2 physical for 5 damage plus their combo count, but I'm going to spawn with a counter. So I'll counter again with I've been working on this. Reacts to a tier 2 or lower physical action, prevents the damage, and allows me to freely play a tier 1 or lower Muay Thai action from the deck. So we will close out this round. My opponent spent 2 action points. I spent 3 action points. I'm gonna send this over here to my skill zone. So my skill zone is at 6 Muay Thai and 6 memory. So both of these effects are online. With both of them being online, this memory 5+ allows me to play a card that's 1 tier higher from my deck. So in response, I'm able to play this axe kick. My opponent has the ability to react. They react with the copper scales. So my axe kick is coming for 3, plus my 2 extra damage to my counters for 5, plus my 2 combo for 7. This blocks 9 and has demoralize 1. So it will block my action, and then I have to send 1 card from my zone to the discard pile. So I will send the roundhouse kick, and we will close out this phase. So I have not gone over, but my opponent went over, so I get to draw a card. I'll draw a card from the react pile, and then we will send these. So I'll send that there, and this to my combo zone. And so that was my opponent's turn. They attacked, and then I countered, they reacted. So then I will draw for my turn. So I'm gonna play pushed back. Pushback is a signature action, so you can only play 1 pushback a turn. It also has onslaught, which immediately starts a new action phase and allows me to play a tier 2 or lower Muay Thai foot action from my deck. But since I have this memory 5 skill online, it allows me to then play a tier 3 or lower Muay Thai foot action from the deck. And just so you know, this is tier 3, but I can only play it once per turn, so it won't allow me to accidentally loop out. So I will play this cross punch sidekick. My opponent will react to the side punch, cross punch, side kick. This one did not go off, so it has a timing too. You can only play it as the second reaction in the turn. Since it was not the second reaction, it just has no effect. So they will essentially be playing nothing in response to this. And it will be coming at my opponent for 7 damage plus my 2 combo for 9 damage. So they would take 9, going down to 71. And that was 1 increment of 5, so I can send 1 card from their combo zone to the discard pile. So I will send this one. And then we will close out the action phase, and then I'll send this cross punch to my combo zone. Now the action that I played that started the action phase, pushback, is still attacking. So right now it's attacking for 3 combo plus the 2, so for 5. My opponent did a springing strike, so they are doing an onslaught ability. They can immediately start a new action phase. Well, actually, this is not going to work, sorry. So this spring and strike only reacts to tier 2 or lower action. My action is actually a tier 3. So this is going to fizzle out and not actually do anything. And so I will come through for 5 damage. And that was 1 increment of 5, so I can send 1 card from their zone to the discard pile. And then I will send this to my combo zone. So I had only spent the 3 for the pushed. My opponent has fizzled out twice. So then I will come through for a glaring weak spot. And the reaction is smack it away. It reacts to a tier 3 or lower action. So I went over. My opponent gets to draw a card. So we're sending this down. This is a tier 5 reaction. So this tier 3 fizzles out. I'm coming at my opponent for 10. So I hit the Abomination for 10. 2 increments of 5. So I will send 2 cards from their combo zone to the discard pile. And then I will send this over into my skill zone. So now I have a counter plus 3 and a counter plus 2, so my counters deal 5 more damage. Any cards I play from my deck can be 1 tier higher, and I can play actions from my deck for retaliate abilities. And that was my turn, so it's my opponent's turn. They're swinging at me with a tier 1 fast recovery. Yeah, so I think I will respond. I'm going to respond with a Did You Just Slip? This is a tier 3 retaliate. So I will take the damage, but taking damage does not cause me to discard from my zones. And then I can freely play a tier 2 or lower action. But since I have this allows me to play tier 2 or lower action from my deck. And then since I have this allows me, whenever I play a card from my deck, I can play it 1 tier higher once a turn. So this will actually allow me to play a tier 3 or lower action from my deck in response. So they have a 10 combo and 2 damage, so they're going to deal 12 damage to me. Bring me down to 60. Then we're going to close out this action phase. So I'm going to send this actually over here into my combo zone. So I'm just splitting these up. Sometimes I just put the 1s up higher and the 2s down lower. It's just easier when I'm discarding later if they don't get too mixed up. This is going to go into their combo zone, and then I can play a tier 3 or lower action from my deck. So I will play I Noticed a Weakness. So it has Faint 1, so me and my opponent will each draw 1 card. Whenever they draw, it goes to zone. And then we discard a card. So I will discard this Need to Work on Form. Actually, we're going to do it like this. I am not going to do that one. Actually, yeah, I'm still going to do that. And then I'm just going to have them discard this tier 2. So what Faint does is you and target each draw 1 card and then discard 1 card. And then whoever discarded the highest tier card gets to return the discarded card to his zone. So I discard this Need to Work on Form, so I'm going to return it to my combo zone. If you're wondering why I'm not putting it in my skill zone, it's because this is a unique skill zone ability, so I can only have 1 counter plus 2 damage in my skill zone. Alright, so then I'm coming at my opponent for this damage. They will respond with a tier 3, so that will use exactly the last of their action points. It's a retaliate ability, so they're going to retaliate to my retaliate. This was a counter, so it gets plus 5 extra damage, so it does it's 5 plus that 5 for 10, and then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 damage. So they would take 16, but they would not lose any cards because of retaliate. We will close out the action phase. I will send this to my combo zone. They will send this to their combo zone, and then they get to retaliate with the top card of their deck. This is a Unpredictable Hop, and it's a tier 2, and we're just gonna push this counter as far as we can take it. So then I'm going to respond with a No Style Like My Style. So I'm going over my points. My opponent gets to draw a card. We will draw a card here. And then we will close out this action phase. Well, actually, I'm going to play a repeated body shots modify on my no style like my style. Close out this action phase. This will go to their combo zone. This is going to, I'm going to put this in my skill zone and this in my skill zone. What this does is you deal an extra 3 damage with the first action played from your deck each turn. I've already played an action from my deck this turn, so that will not actually go on. And I already got to upgrade a card played from my deck this turn. So I will just get to do what the card says, which is a tier 2 or lower Muay Thai from my deck. So I will come through with a roundhouse kick. My opponent's not going to play any reactions, so it's going to take the extra 4 damage, so it's doing 6. I have +5 in my counters, so that's 11. And then 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I'm coming at my opponent for 18, bringing them down to 22. That's 3 increments of 5 without a retaliate ability. So I'm going to remove 3 cards from their combo zones. I'll send this to my combo zone. I have 1 card left in my hand, by the way. That will end my opponent's turn, because they started that phase. We go to my turn. We both go back to 4 action points. I will draw a card. Okay, I'm going to choose not to play anything and draw a card from my react pile. And then say go. Abomination will attack me again. Okay, coming at me, they tier 4. Alright, so I'm just going to have to do this. So I'm going to do a retaliate. So I'm going to go over. Give them a card to their zone. When they played this, it was exhaust 2, so I have to send 2 cards from my zones to the discard pile. So I'm going to send the 1 here and this 1 here. And then so we will close out this action phase. So this hidden ambush is going to go to the combo zone. I can take this all day. It's going to go to my combo zone. And then this is going to let me freely play a tier 4 or lower Muay Thai action. But I can play a card that's 1 tier higher, so it'll be a tier 5 or lower. I can play it from my deck because of retaliate. It's going to do an extra 3 damage because it's the first card I played from my deck this turn. Plus the 5 damage before it being a counter, so it's going to deal an extra 8. I'm going to put this into my combo zone. I think I'm just going to do this tier 4 though. Alright, so it does 8 plus my extra 8. Their hidden ambush was exactly 4, so they have no action points to react. So I'm at 16 and my combo is 9, so 16 plus 9, so 25. So I would come through for 25 damage. This Abomination only has 22 life left, so this will finish out this Abomination match here. We will set this to 0 and say death. So thank you for watching. If you watched all the way through, I know I changed the rule just a little bit at the beginning. I think it's just going to work out a lot better. It's way simpler, easier to understand. The other way was just overcomplicating it for no real reason. Well, there was a reason why I did that, but I think I've worked it out to where I can solve that issue a different way. So if you watched all the way to this point in the video, you're awesome. Appreciate you. Please subscribe, like, it always helps. Stick around, see what we're doing, support us. Thank you very much.